I'm an absolute die-hard fan of the Indiana Jones movies, well, at least the first 3 films. So with the release of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we now have 5 movies in this franchise. So it's time to rank these bad boys from worst to best. Let's dive right into this video before they decide to drag our boy out of retirement yet again. Coming in at number 5 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and this one really stings because it was my most anticipated movie of 2023. All I wanted to get out of this one was to go to the theater and walk out thinking to myself, okay, that was necessary. That was a part of this character's life that I needed to see. And I don't think it gave me that. I just feel like that movie magic that made those first 3 films what they are was pretty much non-existent in this movie. It's missing that special Spielberg sauce. I mean, when you watch Raiders, everything in that is pretty much real. Real locations, real stunts, real creativity. And then when you watch Dial of Destiny, all of it looks fake and fabricated in comparison. And let's face it, Harrison Ford was probably too old to do a movie like this in the first place. And that's not to say that there aren't some fun bits in here with him where they divert from the usual formula to incorporate that this character is a lot older than we're used to and he has to do stuff a different way now, but it just didn't give me that vintage Indiana Jones action that I was craving. There are still some good emotional moments and callbacks sprinkled in here that hit that sweet spot, especially with the previous 4 films fresh in my mind, and those other aspects of these movies that are a must, like the physical comedy, the killer sound effects, and the legendary score, are pretty much in top form here. I absolutely love the opening 20 minutes of this movie, but unfortunately that just can't carry the whole film. I'm just completely split down the middle on this one. It's just a total mixed bag for me. I wish I loved it, and who knows, maybe it'll grow on me more over time, but as of right now, this is the movie in the franchise that I just connected with the least. Also, that third act really goes for it, my god. Coming in at number 4 is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I feel like this is the movie that taught me that films can be a disappointment. I mean, you know how it is when you're younger. I was rewatching the original trilogy over and over, just being completely blown away every time. A new Indiana Jones movie sounded like a great idea. But when you're 13 years old, you don't really factor in that it's been 20 years since the last one, and that all of these Hollywood executives are gonna suck the magic out of this franchise until it looks like it opened the Ark of the Covenant. Little Raiders reference for you. But in all seriousness, this one played a bit better for me on rewatch. We all know it's a little overhated and looked down upon so harshly because it's an Indiana Jones movie. Like, yeah, you compare it to the first 3 films and it looks like hot garbage. But if you detach it from that, there's still some mild enjoyment to be had here. The action scenes are pretty fun, it still has Spielberg's eye behind it, and seeing Harrison Ford crack the whip again always gets the blood pumping. I do think it's definitely a bad-looking movie though, maybe not the worst when you compare it to Dial of Destiny, but it's just so obvious that there's tons of green screen and CGI going on here. The side characters are annoying as shit, Ray Winstone and John Hurt, I'm looking at you, and I still don't vibe with the whole alien reveal. George Lucas should have left that shit on Tatooine. Coming in at number 3 is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and from here on out on this list, all of these films are fantastic. But even though I think this is a great movie, this one has always been cemented in last place for me when you look at the original trilogy. Obviously, it all comes down to personal preference when it comes to those first 3 films. You could probably argue they're interchangeable, but for me, it features the worst love interest in the entire franchise, and the tones are just so much drastically darker than the other films. It's like that one sibling that listened to a little too much My Chemical Romance and had an emo phase. I mean, guys' literal hearts are being ripped out of their chests, young children are being forced into slavery, they're serving monkey brains for dinner. What the hell was Spielberg going through when he made this one, man? But on the flip side, I think it has some of the most memorable action sequences of the entire franchise. I feel like when you think of Indiana Jones, the first thing that pops into your head is either him running from the boulder in the first film or having that epic badass standoff on the rope bridge in Temple of Doom. Another reason I dig this movie specifically is that it's way more of a contained story than the other films. You know, we're not off stopping the Nazis from taking over, we're not finding eternal life. It's about this one little village, and I love seeing our main hero off on another one of the random adventures that made him who he is. Also, I love Short Round. I want to make sure that was mentioned. Coming in at number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I doubt anyone's going to fight me too hard on this, but we all know this is where these movies should have ended. It was time to hang up the hat, store the whip. I mean, you get a sequence at the end of this movie, one of the most memorable of the entire franchise, where Indy and his father are finally seeing eye to eye, and they literally ride off into the sunset together. Obviously, that didn't happen, but this movie works so well because there's more heart, there's more laughs, there's more payoff, and all of that centered around the core of this father-son relationship. Adding Sean Connery into the mix as Indy's father creates such an insanely satisfying character dynamic. We're used to Indy being the expert here, so his father constantly looking over his shoulder and passive-aggressively judging the shit out of him puts just enough of a spin on the formula we're used to, and it is wildly entertaining to watch. This entry might have the most memorable action scenes in the entire franchise for me, which is a bold claim. I mean, you have the young Indy chase, the boat chase, the motorcycle chase, the tank chase, but there's just something so addicting about watching Indiana Jones go through the necessary trials to find the Grail at the end of the movie. It's very Dragon's Lair and Legends of the Hidden Temple, seeing him quickly rack his brain for clues on how to pass every challenge he faces while staying in one piece. Anyone could tell me this is their favorite movie of the franchise, and I wouldn't fault them for it. But coming in at number 1 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I mean, what more can I say about this movie that hasn't been said thousands of times already? Not only is this the best adventure movie ever made, it's my favorite movie of all time, and it's been that way for the past 2 decades. This is just blockbuster filmmaking at its absolute finest. It doesn't get any better than this, because there's something in here for every type of movie fan. There's action, there's adventure, romance, horror, comedy. This thing is so jam-packed you can barely catch your damn breath. Spielberg always said he structured this movie to feel like you were riding a theme park ride while you were watching it, and I still think that's the best way of describing it and how I feel every time I sit down to give it another viewing. The first 10 minutes of this movie are absolute cinematic brilliance. It gives us one of the best movie character introductions in history. I'm always rewatching that sequence. But there are so many iconic moments in this film. I was talking about it with my dad earlier, and he asked me what my 3 favorite scenes were. I think I listed like 10 of them when it was all said and done. But we can't talk about Raiders without mentioning the score. John Williams puts his blood, sweat, and tears into this one and composes one of the best musical soundtracks ever made. Even before my fiance had seen the movie, I caught her whistling the theme song once or twice. That's how you know. But you didn't need me to tell you this movie's incredible and that it's the best adventure movie ever made. You already knew that. So there you have it, guys. My ranking of all 5 Indiana Jones movies. So now you know what my order is, but I want to hear what yours looks like. In what order do you have these bad boys? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.